All right, everybody, away we go. Welcome. It is September the 10th of 2025, and this is the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan course. And by way of just getting us oriented here, I want to make sure my tab is showing. You should be on the Zoom. I know it's working online, but you should be seeing the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan course layout. Are you seeing that? Somebody want to give me a yes, yes? All right. Thank you, Dan. Bravo. Thank you. So again, just to reiterate, this is a 12-step discussion to go over the plan that we have developed over many, many years to hopefully make your life easier. But I want to always give the context. This is a strategic discussion first, meaning it's a holistic view of how the business works week after week after week. And I try to put it in order of how things generally happen from a strategy. And then at the end of, that basic discussion, we get into some of the tactics. In other words, I show you exactly how we do what we do. Tonight, I will do that too. I'm going to go through the lecture of prospects and why that's such an absolutely critical thing to understand if you want to bring predictability and sustainability to this business where there is none. I can't tell you how often every single week when I'm coaching one-on-one, especially top producers, they're always trying to skim clients right off the top as if that's a sustainable business model. It is not. The act of creating a prospect out of a lead who you can follow up with over time builds your future business instead of you being frantically looking for a lead that is going to miraculously turn into business. Somebody's going to sell the single largest financial asset most of them have or buy one the same. Come on. That's absurd. So we have to understand how a business really works. And that's what we go through. So just to reiterate, because you can go back to all the recordings of all 12 weeks and at your leisure, listen to them. Lecture lasts about 45 minutes apiece. At the end, I go into some tactical things, but I also ask you, and especially if you're affiliated with the Realty Classroom or the Griffin, especially my agents, I am looking for you to ask me any question about business. I expect that when you're here, if you're going into a weekend, this is a Wednesday night, you're going into a weekend where a lot of things can happen in this business, you should be talking to me. Should be taking advantage of this time for coaching from me after the lecture. Okay. So remember that's the case. Now, to tell you where we've been, where we are, and where we're going, because we're in the last 4 weeks of this round. We started off by explaining that model in the very first week. I have a 1-page infographic. I made it years ago, refined it slightly, but it stands as the bedrock of my understanding that I need to stay, you need to stay, we need to stay in a strategic understanding of how the whole business works, not a piece of it, the whole thing. You're independent contractors trying to run a business for yourself. You're in partnership with me or somebody else. You need to understand business. So the model is explained in week 1. Week 2, we start right off by saying when you realize it's a business, you're not getting a paycheck. You're setting a North Star financially. And when you own a business, that's called the revenue line. That's your income line. That's the gross income line. That's the revenue you want your business to bring in. We set that in the sky first, because everything else, even if we don't know how we're going to get there, can move us there. And we teach you tactically at the end of that call how we do it here, right? We have a very basic spreadsheet called the GCI Goal Tracker. If you don't have a copy of that, you're a Griffin or a TRC, you should get your hands on it immediately with no excuses. Fill it out so that you know how you're going to go there, how many deals it's going to get, etc. Next, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to build a self-image to become a profitable real estate agent. It is a thing that you can program your subconscious. And the book Psycho-Cybernetics that I'm going to always talk about every time we're talking about how you're doing with it is a must read. I'm going to double down on this every time I talk about this course now. Without you believing that you can do it and programming your self-image to act as if you're already successful, you're nowhere, because you will be the problem. See, teaching you this is ironically stupid easy. After all these years, I found out there's a lot of things that are very basic. So for Griffin agents, learn how to make a buyer and a seller package, learn how to run 2 spreadsheets to organize your business, and then learn the language of scripting and the cover letters that match so that when you do your marketing and drop it off, they say the same thing. If you mastered those 6 things over and over, you'd be just fine. But if you're going to not build a mindset that accepts that, commits to that, works on that, then that's always going to be the problem. So mindset is everything. 4, before you get going out there to do business, you have to understand what the core content is in our business. And absolutely, it's about a market update once a month being produced, understood, and talked about. Okay. And we talk about how we turn that into a unique selling proposition in the next week by inserting that along with a couple of other things that create a physical information product. So many of you want to talk about digital and you don't even know what an information product is and why it's so important. That was week 5. Week 6, just because all of this is organized now doesn't mean it's a match with everybody. That's like the Match.com number 6 call, where we say you have to understand what an ideal contact is. I won't call it anything other than a contact because you need to get those contacts first that are ideal. We talk about demographics and psychographics, okay, in that one. 7, we finally, after all that work, allow ourselves to talk about leads. And by the way, there's no scarcity of the best leads. They're hiding in plain sight all the time, and they're listing leads. They're not buyer leads. You don't look at the business and say, how does it work? And say, well, we have an MLS. Well, who's in the MLS? Buyers. It's not what happens. So you don't ever emerge a real business in this industry without learning how to get listing leads that are hiding in plain sight and use the system we talk about up to that week, right? Next, you don't wing it either. Just because a lot of these things are aligned. I have the information product. I know who the avatar is. I need the words. And we have spent thousands of hours over many, many years, several decades, north of 2.5 decades for me working on this. How about that? 26 years later, and I'm simplifying this for you. You want to go through that 26 years? I don't think so. Learn that the words that come out of your mouth matter. And again, if that's in conflict with your self-image, it's a problem. There's a disconnect. If you don't see yourself saying the words of a system, I go back to self-image management, right? Now, that's going to work, period. If you do it enough and you stay inside those guidelines, you are going to turn a contact lead into a contact prospect. See, contact is just information of the person, their name, their telephone number, their email address, etc., mailing address. We have it all when we have a good contact. But now we only know that contact information when they're a lead. And we have to say something to them and make an offer to see if we can move them from lead where you don't know why they're doing something, you don't know what their motivation is, to knowing those things. And there's so few of those really good ones, and you don't need that many. But if you don't follow the business formula when we give you a GCI goal tracker, you don't know that one of those good prospects that goes on the other spreadsheet could lead to one of the deals you need to be financially successful. So it all dovetails and comes together, but we hold back the reins so you understand all of this stuff precedes getting a lead, saying the right thing, giving the unique selling proposition package just to turn them into a prospect. Just to turn them into a prospect, not to skim them immediately to clients. That's so naive. It's incredibly naive and dangerous in our industry because you get promised it all the time at these brokerages. Oh, we got leads. We got leads. Really? You got leads, huh? Every single week of my career since about 2005, I have had to deal with internet leads. And what it turns out most of them are is whimsical inquiries on the internet from somebody staying up too late, looking at properties, just trying to get through a gateway. So it's like, come on, like that's not even good material to pull through your system when there are leads hiding in plain sight where you can go and turn the good ones from a lead to a prospect and just earn the right to follow up so that you are probably in a competitionless lane and you create prospects. Okay. So that's how we arrive here. A lot of work just to get here, right? 9 weeks just to get here to the linchpin of making your business sustainable and predictable. So I'm going to go through, like I said, I'm going to go through the lecture piece of this, and then we are going to, I'll get into a tactical thing tonight where I'm going to show you the contact pipeline manager. So every Griffin in here, okay, if you're in Seattle, Arizona, Cape Cod, Boston, if you're in here tonight and this looks foreign to you, shame on me, okay? Because when you see that contact pipeline manager, and I'm going to show you Kathy's, because Kathy does a lot of that generation with me. I mean, Laura and I do our own, but I want to show you Kathy's, and I want to show you how I know and can predict my future through new business development. And that's what you should be doing. And if you're not, we are nowhere, folks. Okay. So you're going to see a tactical implementation after I talk strategically about why prospects matter. Follow that again. Strategically, I'm talking about how we end up with prospect discussion at week 9. I just showed you that. I'm about to dig into the week 9 strategy, but then I'm going to show you how I protect all of that. Okay. So what you should be seeing here is something that says guarding your prospects. Let me just make sure that didn't click. Guarding your prospects against the wolves, right? So are you? Let's see. So this starts off with this concept of, if I'm going to guard something, I need or should have a place where I can put them. So see, strategically thinking, when I talk about protecting something, I need to have a place where I protect it. If it's just randomly out there, I'm vulnerable. I'm vulnerable to losing it. So imagine it's like the crown jewels. They have to be locked up somewhere. They have to be guarded somewhere because somebody wants to steal those crown jewels from the Tower of London. That's what they want to do, right? So when you're looking at this, you have to think of this the same way. Where am I going to put them? So we define what CRM is because that's where. So the best working definition of CRM is what? Contact relationship manager, right? That's what we call it. So when you see CRM, I happen to call our spreadsheet the contact pipeline manager because you'll see it goes from prospects to leads, leads to prospects to clients, et cetera. It's the whole pipeline. But in the case of just generally a database, which I hate that word too, database, work your database, they say. They don't even know what they're talking about. It's a digital place, a digital cage within which to put information. But in there, if things aren't hyper organized, they get lost. It gets bloated. You don't even know how to go into your own CRM. So the thing to remember is when I teach you a 12-step strategy, as those contacts move through to the end where we'll talk about past clients who are the greatest asset a business has if you nurture them, right? You're watching a relationship, okay? That's what you're watching. We get so caught up in selling homes, we forget the business we're in. We're in the relationship business. We have to start with people that we don't know or we really don't have a business model. And we have to have these methods and these techniques that begin to build a relationship with somebody that we don't know. And of course, like I said, what's running through your database is a contact. It's digitized with all its information. And because to build a relationship these days, you're probably going to text them. You're going to email them. You're going to call them. You're going to mail them. We need as many different ways to communicate with them as possible. But we have to understand it's because the relationship with that contact is critical. And more importantly, we have to know the difference, right? So let's talk about this a little bit more. So the primary advantage of using a CRM versus winging it, okay, is that it helps you segment exactly what I just said. So I'm segmenting or separating a pile of leads from a pile of prospects, from a pile of clients, and furthermore, without getting too much into it, because those are later stages of this course, closings and past clients. So a contact is riding along this assembly line of your business, and it's changing disposition. The disposition of a lead, right, means I don't know why that person wants to sell or buy, and I certainly don't know how motivated they are to do that right now, so I can try to help them and me establish timing. That's a lead. Okay. Now, many people obsess about leads and going out and getting so many of them. I get so excited I swallow my own spit. So the point is, when you look at these leads that are coming in, what's most important in the front end is you don't try to get too many of them. Today alone, I talked to 2 of my coaching clients. One was getting 8 to 9 leads a day. Another one was getting 25 in a day. Well, that's absurd. That's absurd. That's literally like drinking from a fire hydrant that's put on full blast. You just don't have the mechanism to convert that many leads that fast. So the first thing is, I'm very, very hesitant to tell you all to go out and buy some lead generation platform and just spend a lot of money for, well, not hesitant, I'm telling you, don't. To go out there and do that. Now, some of my clients already have it. So we're trying to figure out, well, leave them in that database that's separate from your database. Only pull over to the Contact Pipeline Manager your prospects, because there will be far fewer of those people that you're creating, and you're easier to manage if they're separated. So sometimes if somebody is having a CRM that's a lead gen platform, I tell them leave all the leads over there. Like Vulcan 7, for example, is an example of one of those databases for seller leads that are expired, and for sale by owner if you want. All those leads should stay over there and be segmented by the month that they come in, and that when they're called and converted, then the prospect gets moved over to Contact Pipeline Manager. So in some cases, I'm counseling two separate. I do that, okay? We have Vulcan 7. We set it up there to get those leads. We get rid of a whole bunch of those leads in there, and we only pull over to our CRM Infusionsoft the ones that are avatar based on what we can see. We can see the median price or above, only those. We can see the geography within which I want to do business, only those. We actually end up throwing out a lot of leads that I paid for. That's how disciplined we are with leads. Extremely disciplined. Now, of course, when the prospect gets created in my Infusionsoft or Keep, and whether you have Follow Up Boss or whatever, we segment them. But I ask my team, which is now 3 telemarketers deep and a client care manager, take the best ones that we are certain are really, really good prospects, and put them, duplicate them onto the Contact Pipeline Manager, which you'll see tonight. Okay. So it's a big deal about segmenting stuff. Big deal. It's a big deal. And a working definition of what a prospect is something we discussed when we talked about scripts. And I'll go back to that too tonight if somebody reminds me. And I will show you a working definition of that prospecting act as it relates to those scripts. And then, of course, the clients, it's the same thing. And I'll make a case about this. You build an assembly line of a relationship manager left to right, meaning when you put whatever you want, even if it's just a label, a lead, what does that mean? Okay, repeat after me in your own head. I don't know why they want to move, and I don't know how motivated they are right now to do so, period. And preferably, you're starting with seller leads. If you don't, you're just kicking the can down the road, and probably going to lead to a lot of pain and suffering and failure, because you're not learning how to actually do the business the way the business works. I'll remind you, there are no buyers listed in MLS. There are no buyers listed in MLS. There are listings / sellers listed in MLS. So if you don't want to control those, guess what happens? You end up working for me and everybody else who's obsessed with getting those listings. The minute I put a good listing out there on MLS, every buyer's agent who has a buyer comes to work for me. Don't let that happen to you, right? Go get your own listings and have people working for you. We have Danielle in here tonight. She's 23 years old. She's only been in the business a couple of months. She already has a for sale by owner. So people are working for Danielle. Period. She has a client already on her Contact Pipeline Manager already. And the first thing I told her is go right back out and continue to create prospects from those leads. Don't dare get one deal itis. So you're always working these 3 segments. And by the way, the faster you get a no from a lead and get it out of your database, the less of the chance you have of having, and again, I'll go back to database, Contact Relationship Manager, right? Same thing as a database, but better to use the working definition. So you don't forget this is a relationship thing and data isn't just dumped. Okay. Of course, it's data, all the tactical stuff in there, but it's the relationship. Segment and less is more. Less is more. Less is more. Why? And can I prove it? Yes. If you go back to what I tell you to do about the gross commission income goal sheet, you're going to see how few deals you have to do so that you never have to go get a part-time job working at Starbucks or Whole Foods for a fraction of what you could make in a part-time business run correctly. That's the why. It's a huge why. So leads, prospects, and clients segmented properly. By the way, I don't know if you can see this in the background here, but I have WireX. I learned this system many years ago. I'm 59 to give you my age, so you can see how long ago it was that I graduated college in 1988. I developed the segmentation system back in college. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know it had these applications in business, but that's how I was a very successful student. Is that the first thing I remember doing is going out and buying a desk that had the exact number of shelves. You had a shelving unit and had the exact number of shelves on one side of it that I had classes per semester. So I could put and segment my classes. Inside of each segment was a folder, and it had pockets on either side. And on one side would be the completed work, and on the other side, the uncompleted. And then I would just stack them and stack them. So I went back to review for my exams. Everything had been completed. I could go to the professor, just review everything, make sure I had everything, go and study. And I had a good run in college. Let's put it that way, right? All because I was systematized. And by the way, I hung around with some of the biggest knuckleheads in school and still had a pretty good time. So what is the most critical list segment to make your business predictable and sustainable? It's to maintain a clean list of prospects, a clean one. So again, like I said, I'll go back to the master script list and I'll go through the prospecting definition, because you can't have a clean list if you don't know how to identify a real prospect. And of course, on Fridays, when you listen to those calls or the telemarketing calls, you can see me working really, really hard to help my telemarketers and other telemarketers understand what isn't. Okay. It's not just giving them a package that they say yes to. It's determining that they don't really have a why. By the way, there's no reason to make an offer of one of these packages that we talk about in the unique selling proposition section of this class. There's no reason to give it to somebody who doesn't have a real why and a motivation to sell or buy inside the next 6 months, preferably 12 months maximally. Period. And I only offer it to people so I can take from them in a nice reciprocity way. Let me give first. Now let me take why and how motivated, because I have to see if that's a match. Otherwise, I might take back the information. Geez, you're not thinking about doing something for 24 months. This information isn't going to be relevant to you. Done. That's clean. I don't want that person in my prospect club. We don't have the capacity, most of us, to follow up that long. Now, I built the system for 36 months, but what do I want to do that for? Don't I want to bring the accordion in and look at my systems and say, yeah, it's just too far out. Let's go figure out how we can find more people who are going to do something inside of 6 months and maximally 12. We better have a really, really good excuse, and maybe over 12 if we're certain they're going to do something, right? So that clean list matters. And then, of course, a prospect has a real reason to move, which I just said, and a high level of motivation to do so in the next 6 to 12 months maximum, like I just said. And they're open, here's the key, they're open to your providing them with property and market updates, okay? So when we go and we make that unique selling proposition offer through the scripts, it is very important that they accept that information. You're going to see that in the master script list, right? So how do you protect your prospects? Well, you must communicate with them at a frequency that matches their timing. So in other words, if somebody's 12 months out, you're not talking to them every week. You might not even be talking to them every month. Twice a month. You might be once a month. You might be once every other month. So you have to play this Goldilocks game where you're not too hard on the information. You're not too soft. If you're too soft, the wolves are going to come and get that prospect. If you're too hard, they'll run away. They'll jump the pen and leave you, right? So you have to match the timing and follow up with your market insight. I'll give you an example of that tonight too, how I've elevated that in what I do. And that speaks to their specific interest, which generally is, hey, I want to sell inside the next 12 months. I got to see how the market's doing in a macroeconomic way globally. How's Boston doing? How's Cape Cod doing? And microeconomically, what's sold around me? What's pending around me, right? And of course, we have the seller and buyer plan. Hopefully, they're following that. So what's the best strategy for building loyalty with these prospects? Never rely on digital delivery of property and market information. Never rely on it. Even when it's really good, like it is for me, at 50% plus or minus my digital delivery, that's a 49% failure rate to deliver quality information to protect and feed my prospects and remind them I'm the one. So we supplement it with direct mail. So once a quarter, we mail to everybody, past clients, moving backwards, actually, past clients, even somebody who's in the closing process, client process, prospects. We mail them all the market update newsletter. And then the prospects get a package with the market update in it and specific properties that sold around them. Yes, those things are also trying to arrive digitally, but what's the rejection rate or spam rate of a mailbox? A bad mailing address that tells you your CRM's ugly. So when we mailed a whole bunch of those recently, over 300 of them, we got about 3 or 4 of them back, and immediately like, okay, it looks like that person has moved, doesn't live there anymore, there's no reason for us to follow up, or they sold without us, so we can clean up even further so that the next time we mail, we get 100% delivery rate, right? But you have to follow up and say, hey, did you get all this stuff? And I'll get into the scripting now too. So give me a second here. Let me just open. I'm going to go backwards in this class for you, okay? And I am going to show you. Let me see if I can show you. It's supposed to be easy. Hang on. I'm going to show you the master script list, and I'm going to go backwards so you can see how that scripting led to these prospects. What promises did I make for this person, right? What promises? So, so I can tie 2 weeks in together, okay? So you should be seeing the master script list. And so what I want to do is I want to take you to the prospecting formula first, because remember, how we create them is important because protecting well-created prospects is easier. If you do kind of a light job on it and you don't really deeply prospect them, well, then they're harder to get back on the phone. They're harder to follow up with, and on it goes. So the definition, like we said, you can see on the script list itself for all you Griffins and TRCers. Here it is. They have a real reason why. That's number one. That's a prospect definition. They have to have that. Number two, they have to have, on a scale of 1 to 10, they have to have a motivation of 9 to 10 inside of the next 6 months. And 3, and very important, they're engaging your unique selling proposition offer, meaning you double opt them in. Let's now go to see a practical example of this. Okay. Danielle, this is Danny Griffin from Griffin Realty Group. The reason I'm calling you is because I saw your beautiful home online and I noticed it didn't sell. So I'd like to send you some information to help you sell it the next time. May I do that? Now, in a lot of cases, that is speaking to subconscious. They're not even conscious. It's happening so fast. That's about 15 seconds when it's done correctly. And what happens is they knee-jerk react. Like if you've ever been to the doctor for a physical, they tell you to cross one leg over the next, or not even, they just hang it over the side of the table and they hit you with a rubber hammer and up goes your knee. You're like, oh, that's interesting. Well, that's a reflex. So subconsciously and psychologically, people reflex to that if somewhere in there they're thinking about selling again. And it just sounded like a no-brainer. Sure, you're going to give me information? Great. Super. May I confirm the mailing address? So immediately we're trying to lock them into the law of reciprocity. I am going to mail this to you. Well, can you just, no, it's a physical package of information. It's just too much to email. It'd be hard to consume, right? So is this the best mailing address? Oh, no. Okay, it's this one. Now, there's a clue right off the bat, for example. No, I don't live at the address. I live here. Ooh, that's good news, right? So we got to start to think as we're going through this. How is this person reacting to me? What are they saying? I'm not just going through words and worried about my performance. You're also worried about your performance. It sounds like this. Have a conversation. Try to be exact on the words, but it's more important to hear inside these words, are they accepting of the offer subconsciously? Next, let's make them conscious. By the way, we take the time to customize the information, and it's going to include, see, that law of reciprocity where they said yes buys me another beat of reciprocity. Now I want to tell you a second time or make a second offer, but I want it detailed. See, if I opened up with detail, I'm talking too much. I can't get that first reaction. So the second time I go in and say, I'm going to send you pictures and details of properties that sold in your price range straight from MLS, just like realtors. A one-page statistical market update to show you the exact direction of current market pricing. And as a bonus, a copy of our 7-step plan that we customize for our clients. May I send that? Now, if you hear a little crescendo upwards, oh, great. That means they made the subconscious connection, but then they hear what it really has, and they're definitely interested. If you have somebody rushing you in that moment, or, oh, yeah, whatever. Well, wait a minute. I'm going to customize. I want to make sure you want it. Don't be afraid to lean back in, to be certain, because you're about to open the red velvet rope, per se, and let this person into your prospects club, which is an extremely, extremely judgmental place. Like, I am judging you to see if you belong in my club, right? I'm discriminating prospects, and I need to get this vibe that this is the right thing. May I send that? Yes. Great. Now I'm going to double down. I'm going to not only get that reciprocity, I'm going to try to lock in that reciprocity with another date. And this is why a lot of people, I couldn't get him back on the phone. Yeah, because you did a shitty job of prospecting him in the first place, because you were so nervous, or you let them bully you, or whatever. Those are all learnable techniques to get through, by the way. By the way, I talk like this when I'm coaching, trying to get through your self-image so you hear me loudly and clearly. I don't mean that derogatorily to any of you. I just mean you need to be conscious that you might be the problem because you're not owning this stuff, right? You have to own this. You have what they need, and you ain't letting them into your club unless they play your game. That's it. That's what real prospecting is. And don't ever think, especially if you're new to this business, you're in a scarcity mentality. In fact, we're going into a normalizing market. There are going to be a lot of expireds, canceled, withdrawns. There are going to be a lot of FSBOs that can't get it done themselves. And amongst those people, there are a lot of knuckleheads that were just testing the market or aren't realistic. Move on until you find somebody who has this kind of reaction with you, right? So I want to call you next week to make sure it arrives. What's the best day? Slowly. Wednesday? Okay. What's the best time of day to call? Okay, 5 o'clock. Great. I'm going to book this for Friday or Wednesday at 5 o'clock. I might even shoot you a text, or I will shoot you a text to remind you I'll be calling. That okay? You can even start to go further now. We don't have to just say this because everybody's, I'm in a rush. And then we get to the next piece of it, right? But here's your take. You've given a very thorough double opt-in. They've accepted a time for you to call them to make sure it arrives when this is done correctly. Now take something. And don't forget, the only reason for going through all of that is so that you can truly prospect this person, because this is where the prospecting actually begins. Now, again, they accepted your information, so it's a little bit backwards. Remember I said number 3, you have to be accepting of the unique selling proposition, but this is what you really need to know. Why you're selling it, right? So by the way, while I have you, it looks like a beautiful house. Even if they're in a hurry, listen real quick, it looks like a beautiful house. Why are you trying to sell it? Well, I'm downsizing, or somebody died, or whatever. Interesting. Sorry to hear that. On a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated would you say you are right now? Well, why are you asking me? Because if you're a 9 or a 10, or feel even more so, I could bring this with me, right? And now we add to the offer. If I bring it with me, I can give you a price analysis and all the properties that I'm about to send you that sold around you to determine your current market value. And I would include a net sheet to show you to walk away with. Also, while I'm there, obviously, I'll give you tips on what to do and what not to do to get the best price based on that analysis in our plan. So the only reason I'm pecking away at you to ask you how motivated you are, because if it's super motivated, I don't want to be slow to give you these other two pieces. Oh, that's okay. I am eager, but why don't you send me your stuff first? Wonderful. I'm actually hearing that you're that motivated. I'm going to overnight it. I don't want there to be a gap. So I'm going to overnight it to that address so that you get it. So I might call you even sooner, because once you see the information, you see that it's legitimately put together, I'd love to have the opportunity to swing by. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to drive by, take a picture, talk to my telemarketer, tell them I went by. So we proactively found you. We proactively put together a customized package. I drove by your house and took pictures. Come on, let me in. You vetted me. You know I'm real, because I want to give you these two things. All of it for free. And most of the time, those people, when you go out to give a presentation, they don't list right there. It's not like that, right? For the most part, especially expireds, they're reticent. They're just a little bit slower in trying to make that decision to let you in or relist again. And that's the delicious prospect that you've now isolated from all the other sheeple, because now you've set it up so that you can follow up. So the script that follows up with that, first of all, the short-term one, is very straightforward. I'm calling you because we spoke last week. Did you get the information, basically, right? By the way, let me just reiterate, it was why. Here's the motivation. Last time we spoke, and you try to make the offer again. So it's the same upsell offer. But if it's not ready, until you're ready for a visit, drum roll, please, for prospect follow-up, to make sure we keep you updated on the market changes, we'll email you. So we do introduce email. Properties that continue to sell around your property straight from the us as they happen in real time. Monthly market updates, the one that you have there, we'll send that to you digitally. But we'll also mail you a summary of the information, either monthly or bi-monthly, depending on your timing. And I will check in with you from time to time to make sure you're getting all of that, and I'll give you what I think is happening in the market. You're setting up the protection. You're defining how that prospect is going to be protected by you over time. So you're going to layer in a couple of digital deliveries of the two dynamic pieces of the 3-piece package, and you're going to continue to mail it because of what I said. The spam filters are the spam filters. You don't get through, even when you have super high delivery rates like me at 50%, because I keep cleaning my list. It's a 49, 50% failure rate. So you're not even getting the stuff to them. So what do you expect them to do? Remain loyal to you as a prospect, and you're not even getting the stuff that they need to them? You got the first one deliciously because you listened to me. You mailed it. You called. You checked on it. But this prospect follow-up is non-existent. And if it was the unique selling proposition physical information product that made you unique to begin with, you got to keep sending the physical stuff to stay unique. Any knucklehead can send information digitally. Anybody. And that's why we lose, right? Okay, so that's that. I'm going to now, like I said, go to Q&A. And when I come to Q&A with you, what I'm expecting also, I did want to show you one more thing. So sorry. Hang on. I want to show you. Didn't I say that? I want to show you. Hold on. I'm going to have to get to another window. Bear with me. I'm going to show you the Contact Pipeline Manager. So, that's not right. Bear with. Okay, you should see the script back up on the screen. And then bear with me while I grab the Contact Pipeline Manager. I'll grab Kathy's. And this is what it's going to look like when you are rocking and rolling here. Somebody tell me when they see Kathy's Contact Pipeline Manager. Okay. Just got to put it up on YouTube too for the replay. Okay. Okay. All right. So when you look at this, all right, This is what it looks like over time. And I cannot encourage you enough to understand that anybody can do this. Kathy was not in this business with me 3-4 years ago now. Time's gone by, right? She was not in this business, and she has done an incredible job of creating prospects with me, okay? Those are all her past clients. Now she's just a part-time telemarketer over time. And it's stunning to see all this. And by the way, I work my open houses and work these listings for my own marketing to then go get my buyers. Well, Kathy's not involved in those deals. So this grows roots even more so, right? Now, from time to time, if it needs longer term follow-up, I always give Kathy back the prospects off of the buyer prospects, especially that need follow-up. In fact, we just closed a 925 together in Boston that I gave her off of one of the open houses. She did an incredibly good job following up, right? And we monetized. So it's right here, actually, 920. So you can see these aren't small commissions. So this is the way that it works. So over time, what's happening is that contact relationship manager, right? I call it a pipeline in this case, but you can see these are all the relationships, right? I call it pipeline because it's got all of them in here, from prospects to clients to closings, et cetera. So when you look at this, this is the flow. So now she can come in here and she can sit here and say, okay, so if I look at Paula Phillips, we left Paula on here, but Paula, unfortunately, is struggling with some health issues, but definitely is going to downsize at some point in time. So she's in there. Dawn McCullough has 2 other properties, and she's also an active, okay? She's an active client, and we have an active $1.3 million offer on hers, and he has a house to sell that we listed. So it's stunning what can happen when you execute a simple plan. Like, think about what I just said. It's a potential string of $3.9 million worth of business because we picked up the phone, made an offer, sent a package. I visited, right? And the lady said, you gave me hope through all this information and organization, right? So it's very interesting when you see this. So I cannot emphasize enough, if you are a Griffin or you are a TRCR, you need to have one of these. I don't care if there's 2 names in here. Now, furthermore, if you're an agent in here, going to the mind mapping part of this, right? I give you a formula. Let me see, this will be a little bit tricky. Sorry, I have to share a different tab. This is more of a window, so I'll stop after this, but I want you to see this window. Sorry, I have to start it in 2 places. Okay, you should be seeing a mind map now. If you don't see a mind map, holler. But what I did for my, what's that? You guys don't see, anybody see an expired campaign mind map? Okay. Okay, let's do that again. Window. It's acting a little bit wonky here. No, still not? All right. Well, that sucks, doesn't it? Let me do the entire screen. Let's try that. Okay. How about now? Okay, good. All right. So here's where we get very tactical about this campaign. The leads that you could do, and this is every one of you that's an agent, I'm just begging you, do this, okay? Pick an expired or a FSBO is what I would say. Once a week. You're running a business, and the intent is for me to protect your new business development. You already know how to make a package. You know what to say at the door. I want you to pick one listing, and if it's expired, make sure it's been off the market for a couple of weeks so it's not going right back on with the agent. Same thing with the FSBO. Make sure they've been on a little bit. Don't go to a FSBO the first week they come on. Prepare a seller package. Add them to the contact pipeline manager as a lead. See, that contact pipeline manager is designed to be a whole, CRM, contact relationship manager, from lead to prospect, et cetera. It's all built that way. So it's built like a database you have to pay for. And in this case, you don't, because I took all the best features out of Infusionsoft and put it there. The only thing it lacks is the automated reminders. So it has everything else. So you add that lead, and then you spend the next 5 consecutive days door knocking them. And when I say that, drive by if there's a car there, and try to go during the daylight. Okay. Don't try to like go after hours when somebody's try to pick the daylight. And if that leaks into the weekends, that's fine. But if nobody's there after multiple tries, drop the package off. Then using whatever system, in our case, we have Vulcan 7, we have telephone numbers. BenVerified.com is a pretty good source where you can look up numbers, get their telephone number and call them, right? Like those 2 things alone. And let's just say you go through this in the first week, that person doesn't get concluded. In other words, we don't take them out because they said no, or we don't move them up to prospect because they said yes. So they just sit there as a lead, but at least they got a package with a cover letter, which is why when I say 2 + 2 + 2, the last 2 is the scripts and the cover letter. The cover letter is saying words for you of conversion, telling them this is for you, here's what it is, and I'll be calling, right? So this is the thing that I've been really espousing lately to back your animal brain into a corner. If you can't commit 44 weeks out of 52, I'm letting your brain be on vacation, get sick, just don't do it, whatever, 44 times. Let's pretend you didn't get anybody on the phone and you put out 44 packages in a year. Do you think even by just doing that, you'd have a chance of hitting some of the basic goals on your GCI goal tracker? The answer is absolutely yes. Unequivocally yes, right? Danielle's a couple months in, already has a FSBO listing. And what did I tell her today? Get the next one going. And then the next one, right? No excuses to not go back to the front of this. Clearly, her client is number 1. But how many prospects does she have behind? What if she doesn't sell him? She needs others. But now she can open up the storefront and try to solicit open housers who largely don't come with their agents or have an agent, where she has a couple packages, each seller, each buyer, a couple of each, so she can convert in the house. So now not only does she get a bunch of yeses over that time with prospects, let's say she gets 6 new listings, she gets to execute the open house, right? Do that 44 times, pick up 6 more. By the time she's done, she's got the chance to do 10 to 12 deals in a year. Right? Now, I'm not saying it happens in the first year. It takes some time to build out a list because a lot of the people you talk to today aren't doing something for 6 to 12 months. Of course, it takes time. It's a business, but in the short term, you're definitely going to get people that you don't know at the demographic and price avatar. Definitely. And you're going to start to build that list of prospects. And my friends, that is what turns it into a predictable and sustainable business. Okay? All right. So let us go to Q&A. Questions for me tonight on anything, and especially my Griffins and TRCers. Ask me anything about your business. It's not just about this. I got the lecture in for this piece of the course, but let's go, right? When you say, were they made for you? Oh, you say, yes. You're looking for the magazines? Yep, there are. You're welcome. What else? Questions? Look at that Danielle Gonzalez banner back there. I like it. It's crooked though. That's driving me crazy. You've got to straighten that thing out. I'm just kidding. I got it. It looks good. It looks good. All right. Questions from anybody else here tonight? Yeah, buddy. Yep, you do. You do, because not everybody's a fit, right? And if they do not have a why and a motivation to do so, it's you can't turn that person into something. Then you can't help them, just because you have all of this organizing, you get all excited. I realize I can't help some people. They're just not helpable. And the quicker I moved off of those and understood it wasn't a fit, the quicker I grew my business, right? So, well, correct, because it's that distribution. Listen, it sounds so discriminatory in a world that everybody wants to beat each other up. Business is discriminatory. If you don't do it right, it'll slap you around and spit you out the back end of it, right? So you have to be realistic about being a profitable real estate agent, what that means. And when you cheat just demographically on average to the higher end, meaning median and above, you just find more highly educated people who appreciate an academic approach because they're academically trained. That's just logical. Now, I say on average, because you get some people that, really smart people that don't make a lot of money. You get some great teachers and things like that. But even those people tend towards the medium, right? They're not usually in some broken down junker, right? They're usually so if you do, I don't know what one standard deviation of your median would be, but let's just say you're 700 and you go back 100,000, 600, that's reasonable. You're still in the fat part of the market where you're probably going to find some educated people, but you have to be very understanding that this is an academic approach. I get it, Andre. It's only a fifth grade to seventh grade level understanding that's required sometimes, but it still has to land, right? So good observation, because that's very true, right? It's very true. And if you will all do the GCI goal tracker and you'll set your goal, you'll see how few median sized deals it actually takes to hit the money. So that doesn't mean to do, like, say, 3 or 4 deals a year, one a quarter, doesn't require you to have 100 leads coming in a month. You see what I mean? The numbers just don't add up like that. I've broken it down to hand pick your leads, FISBOs and expireds blended, I would say, 44 times out of 52 weeks. That's it. I mean, if I told the average realtor it's probably only going to take you 44 leads to be successful, they'd be like, what? Yeah, because those are 44 seller leads, which are definitely going to work if you follow this methodology. And then if you do the open house at the ratios, the rates that I do them, I just did 6 more of them this past weekend. I get 6 more coming up. The odds are in my favor, right? So good. All right, Jackie Rogers, Phil, Jake, Ben, Sean, Christine, Wendy. Oh, Wendy, do you need my help at all for packages? Bravo. That's a good answer. Now get your butt out there and deliver them. Don't you chicken out on me. Yeah. Good. Bravo. And congrats also to Christine, who picked up a seller buyer potential at one of our open houses. And like Danielle, she just hasn't gotten the listing yet, but she's created a double-sided prospect, and she's in the middle of that follow-up, and we gave a listing presentation together. So bravo to Christine and Danielle for being new to the business and just executing the plan. And one has a client and one has a double-sided prospect. So there you go. Somebody was just saying, yeah, go ahead. Oh, hi, Jackie. Oh, no, no fun. Awesome. Yeah, sorry to hear that. Yeah. Well, that's good news. Now, so for you, as you've been executing this plan, it's very, very important for you to start really looking at the contact pipeline manager. And before the 15th, make sure you have a market update and you've made packages to send to your prospects. 15th is sort of that deadline for that updating of the information mailers to the prospects that are due. Okay. Now, so this will be the third time I say it today. Give yourself some grace because the information comes in. You need a little bit of time, but the grace is to the 15th. It's a fire alarm 15th. Okay. Good. You're welcome. Okay. Anybody else? Thoughts? Yeah, go ahead. Mhm. Go on the list. I just go right. I just go right. Yeah, telemarketing. It's the fastest path to a door is a door knock. The second fastest path is a telephone call, right? And we're trying, like with speed, to get a yes or a no. The fastest way to get a yes or no is to door knock somebody home, make the offer face to face. You get a quick no. Very similar to why I like that concept plus open houses because they are the fastest way to get in front of real decision makers, right? But if you're moving backwards, it's telemarketing, and I'd wait the hours. Everybody should be doing open houses, borrowing them, doing them. There's just zero excuses not to do those, right? But if I'm trying to get new business, I'm on that phone. Period. Yep. Yep. Period. Yep. 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 And I'd add FISBOs. I think FISBOs are going to be ripe for the taking. And Danielle has a FISBO. Annabelle has a FISBO. I'm starting to see that they're getting a little bit more ripe for the taking because we're going to go into a much more challenging market than we have been since 2012. We're not a rising tide lifts all boats anymore. So yep, 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 totally. Yep. Yeah. Well, the more open houses, the better. The more, yep. The more the better. The more the better. I'll espouse that since the to the end of time because I did it from the beginning of my career to now, and now I've refined it. It's stunning to me how many people, especially median above, are running around without agents. Stunning, and they're begging for real help. Good. All right, what else, gang? I'm at the 8 o'clock hour, and I don't like to go too long, but I don't want to miss answering a question. Yep. Did we ever put a limitation on how hard you could work, my dear? I am going to put a cot in here for you, okay? It's like investment banking. You don't have to twist my arm to spend all night working. You're welcome. Anytime is the answer, right? Anytime. Okay, gang, appreciate you all for being here live. Thank you for that. That's important that you're here, but you got to see that you're prospecting and all of my Griffins, Jakey, and the rest of the gang. If you don't have people on a contact pipeline manager, I'm going to come looking for you. All right. See you later.